Hey everybody, welcome back to Manny's Maintenance Garage. We got a pretty cool video for today. You're gonna like it. Stay tuned. What you know about rolling down in the deep when your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. That's right, we're gonna be taking a look at 8-pillar LED installs for the 2018 Raptor. The type that we have today is the Baja Designs XL80 install. We'll get into some of the wiring, install options, and wiring up your switches inside of the cabin. Stay tuned. Alright, well, even with much as I like that song, let me bring that down so we can get right to the video. So, this is a 2018 Raptor, like I said, and by popular demand, I guess there isn't any good videos out there that show where the wiring harness actually is for the cabin switches. So, we went ahead and decided to put this video together and show everybody where those wires are. You'll notice on the left hand side there we picked a set of wires or grouping of wires that we thought was going to be going into the cabin, but it actually did not go into the cabin. The real set of wires that we're looking for is on the right side of that module. You see just the ends of the wire there. Um, Two different wiring harnesses. You'll need to select the right one, and we'll show you here in a bit what the different colors are and for each one of the different switches inside of the cabin. But if you wire into these different um, areas with the lights or any of your accessories using the switches inside of the cabin, they're really close to each other, so they're easily mistaken. The left set is closer to the smaller wiring harness, where the right set, which is what you're looking for, is going to be almost directly under the connection to the right side of the module, and that's the wrong one there. So you don't mistake it and go to try to pull it for use. It's on this thinner wiring harness. You'll find the wires in a loop. Ends are taped up, and we'll put it back the way we found it. We just wanted to highlight that there is a second wiring harness where the colors are very similar, but that's not going to be the one you'll use. These are the 8-pillar lights that we installed for this setup. Again, they're the Baja Design XL80. Come with a connector that will be taken off, but the mounts bolt onto the hood hinges, and there's an additional bolt on the bottom under that plastic cowl. So installation is very simple. We didn't want to include it as part of the video, but um, just one install option that you can go with. These LEDs are pretty bright, so we are excited about how they're going to look. There's a couple of different installation options. You can go with a connector that plugs in. In our case, we're going to get rid of that connector, but we did want to spend just a few seconds here showing a few different views of the mounts. There has been some questions on different forums on what the install looked like. So here we showing some close-ups, different angles, in case anybody's looking to see what bolt to use or what bracket to use. You have a couple of different views here. Consider running the wire under that cowl and through the water channel. At the end, we decided just to run it and zip tie it to some of those loops there so that it was not in the way of the water channel. We'll show you that later. This is a look at under the cowl. There's some space there if you wanted to put a wire in there. Again, we chose to use the tabs and just secured it with some zip ties. Depending on your installation option, you can run the risk of pinching the wires if you go above or under the hood hinge. So we picked an area to run our wires that was out of the way, and still wasn't too bulky or obstructing anything else. The connector on the model of lights that we picked allows for a pressure push button activation of the light. Again, we didn't have a need for that. We wanted to be able to use it with the switches in the cabin, so all we really ran was the positive and negative wire into the light, and that worked out really well for us. It does come with some drawings so you can take a look at the different options. But for us, again, we went with the simple route. Wanted to run it off the switch inside of the cabin, so we ran it for that. In fact, even when it came to the grounding of the light, we opted to ground directly into one of the nearby bolts and ran one single power source feeding both lights. That has been working very well for us. So let's take a look at connecting and running part of these lights. We're going to cut this connector off. The diagram shows the green wire as a control. So we're not going to use that. We're simply going to run the black and white wires. Our black is our ground. We're going to run that to a nearby bolt that is grounded out. And we will run our white wires joined up to our wire coming from the cabin switches, the factory installed switches. And we've already tested and marked out our wire. This is going to be the green wire with the white stripe on it. And we do have and will provide a list of all the different wires in that group and which of the switches they go to. So for this installation, we went with switch number one, and that was going to be the green with the white. A couple of other options available there. The initial harness, that was the incorrect one, going to be taped and is going to be put back in place for future use if needed. Like I mentioned, this is the list of the different switches, each labeled aux 1 through 6, and the color for the wire that belongs to that switch. So, like I mentioned, auxiliary 1 is what we went with. Green and white is the wire, and that's a 15 amp. You see the different amperage that each one of those wires can withstand there. I'm sure it applies for more than 1 year of the Raptor. There has been a lot of different and incorrect diagrams that we came across online. We tested this so we know that it's accurate. Every single wire that is listed here was tested against the switch as labeled there, and that's how you can expect the wiring and amperage to go with each one of these wiring setups. So we went ahead and put that grouping of wires that we were not going to use back into place. We tipped them back together and coiled them up and then wrapped them around that original wiring harness. When we found them, they were partially exposed, so we left them the same way. Then we began to run our 14 gauge wire for the power source to our LED A-pillar lights. We ran the similar wire for the grounding and used one of those bolts to ground out our system. We did actually go about soldering the different wires together. Provides a more secure connection so that you don't have to worry about the connections falling apart or coming loose if you use a butt connector or some other type of a connector. So we went ahead and soldered our two wires, black one being our ground and the white one being our power source. And then we had shrink wrap that went ahead and put around each of those soldering joints to secure the joints. You'll also see one more heat wrap or heat shrink around the green wire just for added protection. Make certain to have a piece of heat shrink already slipped over the connection end or the connection you're going to be soldering. Uh, you want to make sure you have that so that you can put that into place when you need it. Otherwise, you might have to unsolder your connection and get one in there, depending on how much work you've done. So pre-staging that with all your heat shrinks in the locations you're going to need them is beneficial. Once we were done with all the soldering and connectors, we started with grounding the lights into the bolts, and then we started running our power into the switch wire that we had identified, and just cleaning everything up with some zip ties, running them through locations where we felt that they were not going to be pinched by the hinges, and they wouldn't be subject to getting pulled or cut, because at the end of the day you are running power, so that could pose some type of a hazard if not secured correctly. We put all of our original wiring harnesses back into place, secured that, and cleaned up all the areas that we had been working on. As you look at the installation, you'll see that we try to conceal the wiring as much as possible. You'll see some zip ties in areas that were already existing, some of the different holes and bolts or the tabs along the cowl. And what that did for us is it allowed us to camouflage the wiring for our lights within the compartment of the engine. So it's hidden, safe, secure, out of the way. And once we were done there, we were able to begin our test. This wasn't too complicated of a project, so we didn't expect too many issues when it came to testing. When we went to go activate the switch, lights came on, no draws in power, no incidents observed, and we tested up against the wall, tried the headlights as well in combination. Everything was turning on and turning off as expected, so everything went well. And that concludes the install of the Baja Designs XL80 A-pillar LED light installation for the 2018 Raptor. This probably fits a couple of other years. The particular model we had was that. Here's a close-up of the lights just so you can see what the exterior looks like and what the design looks like. Pretty handy, pretty durable, easy to install. Would definitely recommend them. But before ending the video, I want to take a few minutes just to show you the installation for the oil separator for the intake on this Raptor. My buddy had one handy. I wanted to take the time to get that installed, so we brought out the fasteners and bolted that oil filter down onto the tray, and then went about removing the plastic cover. Once that's done, you can access the connections where you're gonna run those hoses to, and quick 10-minute installation, but a huge benefit. This is a little bit of the work. So here, simply by removing two bolts, we were able to lift the cover up just enough to give us access to the area. Once we were there, we were able to retrieve the one line that is joining the two air outlets that we will use to install the air filter on. Picked up that cover, and we'll point out the two inlets, one there, one at the other end of the hose. And all you're doing is removing that one hose and installing the filter in place. A couple of clips to remove that line, and the others are pretty much just as easy to go back on. They're slip on and snap on, and you're in business once you've bolted that filter down to the battery tray. So again, I want to just take a few minutes and share some additional footage with you. We are really enjoying the process. Hopefully you are seeing value to the information that we're sharing in the videos that we're uploading. This is video number 2. So please, if you have any recommendations or any comments, please feel free to add that down at the bottom in the comment box. And if you like these videos, please let us know. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll continue uploading additional videos for you. This is Manny's Maintenance Garage, and this was the installation of the 8-pillar light by Baja Designs, the XL80 model for the 2018 Raptor. This is one that is not readily available out there. The installation of these lights and the identification of the wiring harnesses for the Raptor is tough to come by, so hopefully, again, you see value in the information that we're putting out there. Thanks everybody, and subscribe to catch more of our videos from Manny's Maintenance Garage. Have a good one.